Hi, good afternoon. First of all, we would like to thank you, ATypI, for opportunity for being here. We are Megda Pablo Ugerman. Today, we will tell you a little about the development and design of our font Voces and the challenges found along the way.
Before we really start, I would like you to think about the very first type you designed in your life. So that was how we were. As the title of this lecture suggests, this typography presented many adversities from the start until the end. It came as a project during the course called Carrera de Especialización en Diseño Tipográfico that Miguel just talked about in the University of Buenos Aires. And that was just been opened back in 2009. The exercise consisted in developing a typography in pairs that should have a specific use. We are not acquainted at all, and neither shared the same native language. I'm Brazilian, Paulo is Argentinian, and well, to be honest, my Spanish was quite a disaster back then. As if it was not enough, we were both designing a font for the very first time. I mean, that was a huge challenge indeed, but we embraced it since the beginning. We took for ourselves that we wanted to make the most of the experience, so we avoided all the paths that would lead us to traditional choices, such as designing a basic Latin alphabet. The idea was to design a new graphic solution for the phonetic signs of the International Phonetic Alphabet, regarding the specific use in bilingual dictionaries. We noticed that many pocket dictionaries present a poor print quality. With that in mind, unless the typography chosen had certain concerns in its morphology, people would have a hard time trying to read them, as they lose their original design. We also realized that some phonetic characters were not visually synced with the other fonts used in this project. They had discrepancies in its design, suggesting they came from distinct type families. Along the way, many of our teachers kept warning us about the difficulties of this project and reminding us we had no previous experience in font design. Well, we took that into perspective, but knowing that we had so many good instructors and design experts at our reach, and it doesn't happen every day, we stayed positive and took our chances. When we started working on it, we defined that the typography should coexist with other elements and fonts in the dictionary, so it could be interpreted in small bodies and continue working on poor quality paper and printing. Some design decisions we made to achieve that were that the typography should be sans serif with a gradual stroke, the X height should be a little elevated, short ascender and descenders, open contours, and ink traps. All these decisions were crucial and defined not only its morphology, but also its aesthetics.
And well, here is the results after 1 year of work.
To get here, we had not only to learn from scratch about how to design a font, master font lab, but also to understand a new alphabet which we were not used to seeing, reading, and interpreting. So, let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes. The International Phonetic Alphabet is a phonetic notation system standardized by French and British linguists led by Paul for the first time in 1886. Since the creation of the first pattern chart, this alphabet was being revised several times. It's good to clarify that it's not a new language, but a code, which the objective is to present in a standardized, precise, and unique form the sounds of any oral language. This way, anyone can understand the correct pronunciation of any foreign word. The IPA is based on the Latin Greek signs with some peculiarities. It's divided in 3 categories: letters. There are a lot here. These are these letters from the phonetic alphabet. Okay. The diacritics, which specify the basic sounds. And the suprasegmental, which indicate the characteristics like speed, tone, and tonic accents. So, besides the 256 basic characters, we designed the 100 base signs and the 55 modifiers defined at the last chart of IPA, reviewed in 2005. But the point is, besides the sort of scary numbers, at least for us back then, we couldn't find many typographies with these signs since the beginning. In that moment, we detected Cherrysil, Dolusil, Andicasil, Sophia, Times New Roman phonetic, Lucida Sans phonetic, Fedra serif phonetic, Stone phonetic, and Gentium. These are only 9 fonts. In comparison to the universe of typography, it's really not that much. And in not every case, all the phonetic characters were designed. As we were developing something that we didn't know, we tried to understand how it worked, why some letters had that way or another, and how far some morphological forms could go. Also, we would like to know whether what we designed could be interpreted or not. And we had a hard time at comparing the same character among the typographies we mentioned before. Some signs had different solutions for forms that, in theory, according to its name, should have the same design. And the opposite would also apply.
For example, if you compare these 2 characters, they look like they have the same termination, but this is actually a hook, and that is a fish hook, and that it's a tail, or in this case, this here is a cross tail, and here hash curl.
Really, why they have the same name but different design solutions? We are still trying to figure it out because we're still working on the font, and we don't know why. So if anyone could explain us, and it's not these 2 cases, it happens a lot. You see, this alphabet is very old. In 1886, it was just standardized, but its existence dates long before that. Yet, it isn't very common and not often designed, but it's a really important alphabet. Not only in linguistic studies, but also in didactic of the modern languages, as they help a lot in the interpretation of the correct pronunciation of the words. The most common way to use it by linguists is through a software that allows you to reconfigure your keyboard, so you can use it according to the Unicode charts. Here's an example of one of these. You download a program and a software, and your keyboard changes, like in Russian or anything. And that's why it's so important to have all the signs well positioned. You can just change or forget some position of the Unicode. It's really important to keep that. Besides that, there are also the modifiers and diacritics that changes in its use according to each language. Considering that it's almost impossible to predict all their uses along with Latin and phonetic signs, the best solution in this case is to set an anchor point in the letters, modifiers, and diacritics, so they can work fine together. Anyway, it's an alphabet in constant development. as all languages and dialects are alive, continuously changing pronunciations and codes, not mentioning the languages that are discovered, which its representation is only possible through this alphabet. So the goal is about trying to keep up with all that evolution. Here are some examples of the font in use. This is mothering in English, heart, João Ninguém, a Brazilian word for John Doe, coche, car in Spanish, promenade, pathway in French, and magnifique, magnifique, also in French.
Perhaps you have noted that Christian gently used our font Voces in identity of this Congress. Once again, thank you very much. Here.
We would like to say that after some years, we resumed our work, and before was just the Voces regular, and you can download it in Google Web Fonts if you want it. Now you're in the thin and black versions. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Nobody spotted the ligature in this slide.
Sorry?
What do you combine this with?
What do you mean by that?
Because you showed dictionaries
Yeah.
where there's a head word, usually bold, and there might be a phonetic
Yeah.
transcription of the head word, and then there might be italics or something else. So the dictionary designer might try to choose a typeface so that they balance between them. And you went to solve the problem of the dictionary designer who cannot find enough phonetic typefaces to match the other typefaces for which there is more choice. So I'm wondering whether you had any, let's say, normal typefaces in mind for which this would be a good pair.
We didn't just design the phonetics, so it's a complete font. If any designers want to use it, we're, for example, now having all the basic alphabet, so you can use it. But I think the font is, for example, it's a sensitive that normally we figure out that it's better in phonetic cases because they have so many other things around it. So a serif would be complicated in that point. And also, it's like shouldn't be with so much personality that would like mess up with all that design, but still have a clean design, so it could combine to the others.
Okay, thank you. You've answered part of my question. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, you have a question? No, hold on. You can't go yet. You can't go.
Thank you. Just one question about, have you tested or tried your phonetic alphabet, for example, with translations of Korean, which already exists as a set of phonetic characters? Does it still function for Asian languages, for example?
This is a standardized alphabet. So if you are Korean or what, always use this alphabet. So if you have all these marks, these diacriticals and these modifiers, let me reformulate. Each language uses some specific signs and characters and diacriticals. For example, in Portuguese we use some, in English others, and also the keyboard is for specific languages. So if you're a Korean, you probably will use some diacriticals that in English not. but it's, if you have designed all the chart, you are like covered with all languages in the world.
So in theory, it's a kind of universal.
It's a universal. It's standardized. It's global. Every linguist use this alphabet. So that's why we mentioned before some of the typographies didn't have all the characters designed, but we tried to make it all, because you have this Unicode charts and also the IPA charts. To get a little deeper, the International Phonetic Alphabet is standardized, but there are other phonetic people that use other phonetic standards. But this one is global. Every language is covered.
Impressive.
I'll put some context to this. The IPA is not a script. It doesn't correspond to any language, just a system for transcribing sounds. So you could, for example, document my English, and you could tell that it's a Gringlish accent compared to a native speaker's, where you could actually document the specific tonality of the native speaker. The discrepancies you note are because linguists are often disagreeing about which specific sounds that people make constitute a new sound or not. So there might be what to us might seem an extremely esoteric discussion between ethnographers who study an oral community, which might be in the Amazon, for example, and they think they might have documented a sound made by members of the community that some members of the linguistic community might say this is equivalent to an existing sound, some might say no, it's a new sound, and therefore they might diverge, and instead of using a symbol that is agreed, they might say, oh no, we need another symbol for this. I'm sure the discussions make perfect sense within the linguistic community. I think you're absolutely right in what you did. Our job as type designers is just provide the tools for the users to make the decisions themselves.
Responding this, that is said about international languages, Chinese or Korean, I designed the identity, so the guy asked, kept pushing him to have a black version, light, because of course, at the beginning I tried to use only regular weight, because that's the only one available, but of course I have to design booklets and everything else, so it got crazy. So I asked them to design light and black. So I think I'm well served for the conference. And then we had the challenge to write some names, because all the speakers, we have the name translated to some phonetics. We have Chinese speakers, we have from Czech, whatever we think we have speakers from that country. And then, but it's how we pronounce it in Portuguese, so it's even harder, how to pronounce a Chinese name in Portuguese. So at the end, of course, the typeface helped a lot for having all the basic characters for IPA. So I want to make a comment on that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would also say, as Jerry asked about combining fonts, you can combine with Brasilica. There's the other typeface that's being used at the conference, designed by Rafael, who's over there. It's a perfect match.